Good morning YouTube and the internet. Today I'm going to do a quick single stage coolant flush on the BA Falcon. The reason I'm filming this instead of just doing it is I was looking through my data just on my YouTube stuff, and I was getting traffic from another video which was how to do a coolant change on a BA Falcon, and I was mortified to see what this dude did. He ran the car without coolant for an extended period of time. He only put 5 litres total back in the system, despite clearly catching about 10 litres, 8 to 10 litres in his pan. And I'm pretty sure his next video was how to replace your head gasket, or how to do a compression test to find if you've got a warped head, because there's no way knowing that that car wasn't going to overheat on the very first run. So I decided I will film it and I'll show you how I do it. There's guys out there are better videos. Wait, my phone. So, as I was saying a second ago, can't remember where I was up to. Anyway, this dude's videos are the top search results for how to do a Falcon coolant change, and so it worries me lots of people are going to end up following his instructions. Now, I'm not, going to do the best possible way to do it. This car has got an upgraded cooling system. It barely even gets up to operating temperature unless I'm towing, because I use it for towing. So it kills it even in summer. It sits in the low range of where it should be for operating temp, but that's fine. The only time it's got halfway on the gauge once was is towing basically the 300ZX up Cunningham's Gap, which is a pretty steep hill, and even that, I just ploughed through in second gear, I think, at 3,000 RPM, doing 70 k's an hour all the way up it. So I expected it to get a little bit warm, but it stopped at about halfway, and as soon as I come off the other side, it cooled right back down. This has got upgraded cooling, transmission coolers, oil coolers, upgraded radiator, so cooling is not a problem in this car. So a simple flush is all I need. I normally do one when I first buy a car, but because the cooling was so good in it, I hadn't bothered. But after seeing that, I thought, you know what, I should probably do it anyway, and I'll film it, and hopefully people don't look at that other guy's video and blow their car up. Most people can do this without looking on YouTube on how to do it, but the people who are looking on YouTube how to do it probably don't know how to do it, and probably won't know why he's done it wrong. So without any further ado, I'm going to start. So I'm using a Newlong coolant in this instance. I used to always use just the Technoloy premix stuff. In this instance I've got the concentrate, and I've done the numbers on how much coolant should be in the system, etc. We are going to treat it with a cleaner flush, additive treatment, whatever you want to call it. So a single stage flush, what I'm calling a single stage flush, I don't know if it's got a proper name, is simply to add that, run it. That'll help pull any grime and dirt out of the engine. Then I'm going to add drain all the coolant out of it after that. Then I'm going to flush the system with demineralized water. Super cheap demineralized water is still demineralized water, so it's the cheapest one. It's fine. I've used it in lots of cars. Now, so basically I'm going to fill it with that, run it again, let everything get up to temperature, drop that out of it, then I'll add the concentrate, and then fill it up. Now, the capacity in these engines for coolant is about, it says 10 litres in the book. Looking on the Ford forums, most guys are pulling between 10 and 12 litres out. That's a 6 litre bottle of concentrate. So 6 litres of concentrate plus 6 litres of coolant is going to give me a 50-50 mix. Now that's going to mean I've got higher corrosion protection but less efficient cooling. But like I said, the cooling is fine, it doesn't have a drama. The less the less coolant you have, the concentrate, the more efficient the cooling will be. I know that sounds counterintuitive. The coolant's job is, number one, at least in the environment I'm in, where it might reach 0 degrees one night every 5 years. Primary role is anti-corrosion and water wetting, so basically eliminating the meniscus on the water so it can come in contact and tight edges and things, and prevent localized hot spots. The second thing is anti-boiling properties, so it increases the boiling temperature of the water. And thirdly, antifreeze, which I don't have a purpose for the antifreeze here. So basically, water has the best thermal transfer efficiency that you can have for a coolant, but the problem with that is then it corrodes, it has a meniscus, it can generate hot spots. So there's problems with just running straight water, corrosion being the biggest one. And then, so you add the concentrate to it, or premix coolant, or whatever you want, and it'll take away some of that thermal efficiency for the transfer in exchange for the anti-corrosion properties. Basically the only one that's of any use here in Brisbane. If you live in cooler environments, you definitely need to run higher concentrates, like sub-zero places. Absolutely 100% need that sort of antifreeze property of the additives, but yeah, here it's not such a big thing. The other thing to remember is you have to run the heater during this process. The reason being is the heater core, which is behind the firewall, is part of the cooling system. So hot coolant from your engine goes into your heater core, through the heater core, and your fan pulls cabin filtered air past the heater core to draw the heat out of that to heat your cabin. That coolant then runs back into the engine, and so basically it's an additional small radiator, but it is part of the system, and it is where things tend to collect. So if you don't have your heater on, the valve for the coolant to go through that core is closed, which means anything that's in that core doesn't come out as part of the flush, so you need to do that as well. So yeah, that's our flush. Now I've already run the car, it's warm, so we just follow the instructions on the bottle. It's pretty simple. It's hard to open with one hand. So this is enough for 10 litres of coolant. The system is only just over 10 litres. It's going to be good enough as far as the volume is concerned. It's going to be just fine, so we just pour it in. So it says it acts in 20 minutes, but to get it into the cooling system, we need to run the car. So like I said, it's already up to temperature, the thermostat's open, and all I need to do is run it now for 15 to 20 minutes. It says a maximum of an hour, so it must break down the chemicals in the coolant, otherwise there'd be no time limit on it. So be sure that you can finish the job when you start. Don't leave it in for a day or something. So I'm going to let that run for 10 minutes. I'll let it run for 15 and I'll let it sit for another 10 actually, and then I'll start flushing the cooling system. So what I will do is I'll let it cool down a little bit, but not too much, because we still want the thermostat to be open when I drain the radiator. So the first thing you need to do is remove the belly plate here to gain access to the radiator. 7mm bolts and a couple of trim screws. It's loose already. I might have to put this on ramps after all. That wasn't sketchy at all. Under here we've got the fan shroud for the radiator support, and up here somewhere should be a pep cock. So that's it there. I don't know how much you can see. So when you do this, you're going to get coolant everywhere. Try and catch as much as you can. You don't want Captain Planet coming out punching in the face. So this is the reason why we let it cool down a little bit. Basically to try and avoid burning ourselves doing this. Gloves wouldn't hurt. Oh, there we go. If you pull that bung out all the way, it's going to fly out everywhere. So you just undo it. It's a pepcock. It opens the valve basically into the hole under here, and you fill up your pan. The other thing you do at this point is carefully undo this. This will allow any vacuum to release, and it should allow it to flow quicker if it can. Okay. Screw this slide down, we'll open her up some more. The coolant doesn't look too bad. I can see a little bit of brown. Expect that from a 145,000 kilometre old engine. It's probably never had this done. Okay, so once you've allowed it to drain, you can see I've lost some. It's run down here. That's, I think, an 8 litre pan to a line, and so it's probably the full 10 litres that I was expecting. It says litres there, but it doesn't say how many. It's obviously it's on a hill. We'll just do our pepcock back up. Now we refill the system with demineralised water and nothing else. So this is the flush part. This will hopefully draw out any remaining sediment in the cooling system. It should pull the rest of that flushing agent out. What I'm also doing right now is I'm massaging the coolant hose to the refill bottle to try and help burp the air out of the radiator. There will be air in the system. You want to try and get as much of it out as you can, and as a result you won't be able to fit as much in as what you got out just yet. Also, the car has cooled down quite a lot now, so there's no chance of thermal shock causing any issues with a hot engine and a cold coolant coming together. So at this point, with about 8 litres in the pan, I've got probably close to 8 litres back in. So I'm going to start it up and let the system purge itself of air. I won't leave the camera on the engine when I start it. I've left this open so I can keep an eye on the level and top it up as required. Now again, I'm going to let this run for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, so as it pulls right through. And again, the heater is on full blast to make sure that water goes through the full system and takes out everything it can. So it's pretty loud at the moment because the thermo fans are on. To make sure I got it right up to temperature, I'll just give the AC a bit of a burst on maximum and revved it for a bit, and that's brought the temperature up nice, right in the middle of the operating range. That makes sure the thermostat's open and makes sure that the demineralised water for the flush is going through the whole system. And now I've just put the heater back on to make sure that it's still going through there. I'm going to let it run for another couple of minutes. It's taken probably another 200 or 300 ml of water. So turns out these cooling systems are pretty easy to burp. They're pretty much self-bleeding of air. Tends to fill up pretty well. Not like the R32 or the R33 at all, which are absolute nightmares to get the air out of the cooling system. But yeah, I'll let this run for another couple of minutes and shut it off, and we'll drain the water out. So now I'm just draining the water out. You can still see it's a green colour because there's still sort of coolant in the system, because not everything comes out, which is why only 8 litres come out instead of all of it. 10 to 12. There's just low spots and things like that where the water coolant sits, so you can repeat this process as many times as you like. Feel free to, you know, rinse and repeat this flushing as many times as you deem necessary to get your cooling system clean. If you've got an older car, really high miles, you might want to do it, you know, 2 or 3 times. If you have a look on Chris Fix's channel, excellent source for general car maintenance. He does like a super flush where he does it like 5 times, and he takes a sample of the coolant after each one. It's not necessary for me in this, and it's not necessary for most cars. Just the flush itself is usually enough. But if you feel it's necessary to do it more times, by all means do it. All it costs you, these 5 litre bottles of demineralised water are $5 each. You're going to throw 2 in it each time, so that's $10 for each flush. So it's only a little bit of time and effort. I'm not going to. I'm just going to stick with the single flush to pull out the additive that I put in to clean it, and then I'm going to be putting coolant back in next time. Looks like I managed to catch a lot more of it this time. She's pretty full, so I'm going to say 9 litres in that, and let's get that out of the tray and have a look. So I told a lie before. I said I was only going to do the 1 flush. Still a bit on the brown side, so I have enough demineralised water. So I'm going to go again. But like I said, once is usually enough. I just like, I'm just a bit pedantic, you know. I do oil changes every 5,000 k's in this thing. Does have to tow a lot, so you know, it's got to work pretty hard for me. Which means I should probably look after it fairly well. So the second flush is done, it's drained, it's gone through, and let me show you the results. This is what came out from the first one. This is what came out from the first flush, and like I said, it's probably good enough, but this is still a bit ready. And this is the second lot of just water. I've just poured some into these bottles because they're nice and easy to see through. So you can see how much has come out between that and that one. And yeah. Now we just top it up with the coolant. It's exactly the same process as before. Now the volume, that's saying that line is only 5 litres, I think, not 8 as I was estimating. Yeah, 5 litres. It was well above the 5 litre line, but it's probably nearer to 7 than 9. So what I'll do is I'll chuck in 4 litres of the coolant, because what hasn't come out is still in the engine effectively, so there's still probably a few litres of water in there. So 4 litres of the coolant, the rest of it I'll put in the demineralised water, and then I'll mix with the demineralised water that isn't draining out of the engine. That should give me something between a 33 and a 50% mix, and it'll be happy days. It's probably a bit close to my face again, got a bad habit of that. So yeah, shut the pepcock, fill her up. So I'm just going to eyeball this. This is why I like the pre-mix stuff. There's no guesswork involved, but I mean, I could pour this into another bottle, mix it 50-50 exactly, put it in, but it's not really necessary for this application. I really have made this idiot proof. So yeah, 6 litre bottle, put half of this in. Really good if they put a marker on this saying halfway. There we go. Oh, there we go. There's markings on the back of the bottle. So that says I won't cut away just so you know I'm not lying. My eyeball says I nailed it. So we just finished topping it up with demineralised water, exactly the same as before, and it's job done. Now some cars won't be as easy as this, some will be harder. Some you'll need to do like a burping procedure to get the air out. Like I said, this is surprisingly good at getting the air out of itself, so don't really need to worry too much about that. So that's pretty much where I want it. Get some air out. So as it stands, there's about 3 litres of each that's actually gone in. Now, as far as that marking is concerned, lots of coolant ended up on the ground each time I did that, so how much was in the pan versus how much came out, it's not the same number. And knowing that there's definitely still water still in the system, I'm going to just put a touch more concentrate in it. Now fire it up, same as before, let it run, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Once I've run it and got it warm, I'll take it for a drive, so get some load on the system. Then I'll check it again when I get back once it's cooled down, and you may need to top it up then. So at that point, just top it up with demineralised water, or if you're using the pre-mix stuff, just put that straight in. And the last thing, don't forget to put your belly plate back on. You might not think it makes much of a difference, but it actually does help the cooling system by directing the air through the radiator and not under the car. So it has an impact on it. So if your belly plate's still intact, you haven't smashed it off, then you should definitely fit it back on the car.